international women, well, not much to celebrate this end. We've been befallen by a very difficult situation. On International Women's Day, we lost a woman, a very good friend, a journalist with whom we have been working in Uganda for quite some time. She died in a crash overnight in Kiriandongo, a place called Chopelwo, where a Fuso truck came and drove over, actually sort of came head, it was a head-on collision where she was instantly killed. So today, while running training, because I do media training around, I was in the middle of a training session when a phone call came through and a friend said to me, Kassim, can you try? I just said, can you call me back in about 20 minutes? They said, no, it's a matter of life or death. And they said to me, yes, we've just got reports that Sumi will have died in a car accident, and her body has been taken to the morgue in Kiriandongo. Is there any way you can help? You know Kiriandongo like the back of your hand. And that now sort of started my day. I ended up going to Kiriandongo, spent much of the day going through the process of getting the body. First of all, identifying the body inside the morgue. That was really, really heavy on me. For someone that you know, it has its own weight. And then having to get the body, process the body, get A+ funeral services to come and take the body to Mulago, where it is spending the night today, before a post-mortem is done tomorrow morning. So that was not a very good start to the day, but elsewhere internationally, we've been celebrating women, looking at the achievements that women have managed to turn around. And many of us, actually all of us, are products of women in one way or another. We've all had mothers, at least we were born. And the achievements of women actually every time are just unbelievable. See a time when you have a wife and she goes away, everything seems to fall apart inside a home. You can't find one thing or the other because we tend to over-rely on them. So celebration and you know, kudos to them. But while we are discussing that, something else is also happening. By 2017, in Ugandan prisons, more than 2,500 women are serving life sentences, some on murder charges, convicted of killing their spouses. So we are asking the question, what would lead a woman, a mother, a friend, a person who is supposed to be there, a person who is supposed to be light, smooth, and kind, suddenly becoming the murderer of her spouse? And tonight we have a very special guest, a person with whom I've been lucky to do some work. And he's been given unfettered access to Luzira Maximum Prison, where he had the rare opportunity of speaking to women who were convicted for killing their husbands. It's very, very powerful stories. It's not every day that you get an opportunity to sort of hear from these women. And then the fact that they also get to open up. Sometimes it's difficult, and that's what we will be trying to find out. But before we go there, the question is, why do women kill their husbands? Let's watch this clip just to get us getting into the conversation, off the back of which we can actually have a much detailed conversation.
Nobody should kill another person, and certainly not the person closest to you. When such a terrible thing happens, the killer is expected to be a man. Well, in Uganda, women seem to have taken the gender equality thing too far and are also beginning to be accused of murdering their husbands. New Vision TV looks at this disturbing development in an already bad situation. Reports of women in Uganda murdering their husbands in cold blood are becoming so frequent that they have stopped making big headline news. Since this year started, some forgettable reports of man killing, including that of Jackie Naku, who was arrested in Mukono mid-February for allegedly stabbing her dear husband Mark Senyonjo to death. Reason? Mark had returned late from watching a football match. Around the time Mark was killed over watching football late, another man in Kayira, Musa Bulera, who was also beaten to death allegedly by his wife, Harriet Nambi, for refusing to have sex with her. Nambi had just had a baby by C-section 2 months earlier, and Musa was hesitant to have sex with her, but she suspected that he was being satisfied by another woman. When husband killing still used to make news, the public was shocked in 2013 when Jackie Nsenga drove her car over her dear husband, Juvenile Nsenga, killing him in Kampala. Court found her guilty of intentionally murdering Nsenga, and while jailing her, the judge rejected her pleas that she had 2 children, saying the kids would be better off without her. Early in November 2009, Lydia Draru clobbered her lover Major General James Kazini on the head in her house at Namwongo, Kampala. She bravely asked the border riders around to call police and plead guilty to the killing. She's now an exemplary inmate in Luzira, where she spends most of her time plaiting other female prisoners' hair. In October 2014, city tycoon Elia Bugembe, better known as Kassim, set out for a morning jog in a bid to keep healthy and live longer. Instead, he was hit by a speeding car and he died instantly. Because there were no skid marks, meaning the driver did not even slow down on hitting the victim, police immediately concluded that Kassim had been killed intentionally. His elderly wife, Sarah Nabikolo, was arrested along with her sister, Sandra Nakungu, and they were charged with premeditated murder. Mrs. Nabikolo Bugembe got herself a powerful lawyer, Macdusman Kabega, and she was acquitted. But the deceased sister-in-law, Nakungu, was convicted for the murder. The year of Kasiukila's death, other Ugandan husbands were cruelly murdered by their wives. These included others from the south, like Vincent Kagolo, who was hit on the head with a hoe by his dear wife, Joyce Nakalima, because he had not shared the 170,000 shillings paid by their son-in-law for taking their daughter's hand in marriage. Then there was Frank Basheja in the west, who was stabbed to death by his wife, Bena Gateganyire, for buying a drink for another woman in a bar. The following year, in 2015, the police spokesman, without giving exact figures, said that actually more men were possibly being killed by their wives in Uganda than the other way around. At the end of that year, the World Bank took the decision to suspend new lending to Uganda over gender-based violence. A project to fight gender-based violence was mooted, culminating into a $40 million loan to help Uganda fight gender-based violence. Although men and women tend to kill their partners over seemingly small reasons, the problems are usually deep-rooted, and so murder is easily triggered by something small. With reputable donors like the World Bank stepping in, government hopes that the gender-based violence will be tackled from the source.
All right, and that's thanks to the New Vision Television. I can only tell you this is 75 Derby Radio Live, and this is also live on Zoom via Umma Connect, on YouTube as well, where we are streaming live. You can join the conversation. Remember, you can actually just text in case you're shy, but you can also share experiences. Probably you know someone who has murdered their husband or convicted probably wrongly for the suspected murder of their spouses. What could be the reasons? We've heard from this particular story a few of the reasons that might have led to this situation. And there's money involved, there's love affairs or extramarital affairs or an allegation of such. And then in other situations, very unclear circumstances. Already, this is a story that has begun getting you talking, just like we do on social media, on Facebook, via the Corporate Muslim page. Hakim Wamala says, abamu kubakyala bamwe enkwe zaabwe ze zisinganiza sitaani. Naswiba Nakiyemba response to that saying, Hakim Wamala, gwani agamba nti enkwe za sitaani zisinga ez'abakyala. Enkwe z'abakyala ziri musanvu, olwa sitaani luli lumu. That is actually a conversation that is taking place online there. Sentongo Kassim says, and some of them had 2 or more wives, and therefore probably trying to justify that probably it had to do with the kind of relationships that these people were having. Remember, you can share your view, or you can just send us a message on Zoom, where we are at now. Join us on Zoom, or actually on Facebook, where we will be able to access your comments and respond accordingly. Already, this is taking people talking. Muwonge Mzee says it's so scary, but giving them a second chance of life is also good to educate others about the tyranny of this act. Marrying her would be like committing suicide. Nsereko Jalia says, I think most numbers are Muslim. Future husbands, will you survive? Muhindo Buhari says, bad flex, get married and get killed. And Naswiba says, Obsungu, 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 Obtasonywa, Mungu Ponya Evyo. Well, tonight here we've got a conversation, we've got a special guest, and that is Haj Ashraf Semogireve. Like I said, he was given unfettered access to Luzira prison, where he got an opportunity to speak to some of these women about what led them to actually end up in the situation that they found themselves in. Haj Ashraf, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for joining us. For some reason, I think, oh yeah, you're good. Oh, sorry, I just clicked on you and unmuted you. If you can unmute yourself, please, Haj Ashraf. Hello, Haj Ashraf, I think you're still muted. If you can unmute yourself. I'm trying to see if I can get to you and try to get you to unmute. Yes, I'll just get you. Oh, right. Yeah, so assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for joining us.
And thank you for inviting me here.
The network is
thank you for inviting
difficult.
me here.
Oh, very, very welcome. Pleasure is ours to have you tonight. I hope the network will behave tonight, because this
I'm just standing on the top.
the kind of the stories that you have been able to have access to have been unusual stories. So maybe to start with you, what actually leads women to kill their husbands from the kind of experience that you had? Take us through the journey into prison and how you spoke to these women.
Just to tell you, initially, it was in 1998. The gender ministry commissioned me to write a play about gender violence. So it was a tricky bit to start investigating on how people start violating themselves in their homes. So one of my aunts told me that you just go and interview women in prison. Most of them are there because of gender violence. So I got a letter and I went to Luzira, then and other Masaka, Kirinya, and then Nyimbwa. But surely you can't believe, almost 90% of the women who are in prison for long terms are there because of gender violence. And in most cases, whereas we say that men are killed, but usually it is the cause of men cause that violence first, especially the love.
So when you say men cause that violence, is it because do they beat and then the women respond, or do they cheat and the women, out of anger now go out to beat them to death?
From what I realized, women act so fast. After getting anything that disturbs their heads, they act very fast. They use weapons. Anything she comes across, you just use it to hit. And in prison, they are named after the weapons they used. There is kakumbi, that one hit his husband with a kakumbi. There is acid, that one poured acid. So they just act, their reactions are so fast, they don't think otherwise.
How easy was it for you? How easy was it for you to get them to open up, to speak to you about it?
No, you see, when someone is imprisoned for long, for example, if someone is given a term of 8 years, they allow you to talk to someone who has spent there 6 years. Otherwise, when you meet that someone who has been there for only 2 years or 1 year, those are dangerous. They don't open up. But after 6 years, they open up and start talking. They are rehabilitated in Luzira or in most of those prisons. They are really rehabilitated. But when you get someone who is...
Yes, go ahead. When you get someone who is...
When you get someone who has been there just 1 year, those are very quiet and still angered. They don't want to talk.
And
after
someone is already
6 years, even at Zira, they allow you to go out even.
No, someone is already
But
commenting in the chat room that the names are funny, Kakumbi, Asidi, and so on. Names are funny but not funny.
There's Kakumbi, there's even a baby toy. That one just threw the baby.
Baby toy.
They threw
They threw a baby in the toilet.
Yeah, because the man violated her rights.
Yes.
By beating her.
Let's try to get in the mind of these women as you got to speak to them. When you started talking to them, how would they open up? I mean, what would be the way you start your conversation? Did you just say, "Why did you kill your husband?" Or how would you start your conversation with these women now that
incidentally, those who have been there for long, they enjoy to talk to someone from outside.
Yes. And
they were just lining up to come and talk to me. Even they don't like to appear before cameras.
Yes.
But with a voice, because me, I went with a voice with a tape recorder. So I recorded them that way. But they don't allow you to film them or to take their pictures. But they are free to tell. And they are usually rehabilitated so much that even some, because there's someone, like for example, there is this one called the Kakumbi. Kakumbi found her husband in the outside bathroom with a woman just in Banabasura Kumizigo.
Yes.
Now, she had taken a towel to her husband, but when she reached there in the bathroom, things were not all that good. The voices which were coming out were not favorable. So when
the man really know? Did the man know that he needed the towel? Was he expecting the towel, or was it a surprise?
The bad thing, I started in the story in the middle, but this woman was ironing when the man came back from work, and the sister-in-law was cooking. Somewhere.
Yes.
Then what the woman was ironing, when she took water in the bathroom, the bathing water, and just remembered. So she went inside, I got the towel, and they just heard the voices from the bathroom and returned. When returning, she found the Kakumbi just before he entered the house. She found the Kakumbi and just went with the Kakumbi to finish the woman. But when she lifted the Kakumbi to hit the woman, the man just pulled away the woman, and the Kakumbi hit the man. The man fell down.
Was that woman her sister? Was the woman the woman's sister?
No.
Cooking outside, yes.
The one who was cooking outside was a sister to the man.
So she's not the one. She's not the one he was caught with in the bathroom.
No. The one who was cooking is the one who was the in between.
Yes.
The one who called the other woman to go in the bathroom so that he meets the what?
Right.
The man.
So the man was killed accidentally. He wasn't the target of the attack, but he put himself in the place to protect the woman.
Exactly. And this woman, while she was telling me the story, she had two, a girl, Tom, and a boy. Sorry, a boy and a girl. Those were their children. Now, she told me that when the people started to hit her because of hitting the woman, because the other woman just ran away and people didn't know that this man was with some woman outside or in the bathroom.
Yes.
Now what happened? What they did? Now the people gathered. The woman was crying, just I'm sorry. So when people gathered, they started beating her. Even one of them just brought the tire. They wanted to burn her. Just as they were about to burn her, the chairperson of the area came and he told them that, look at that woman, look at the children, the two children. Their father is dead. And now you want to kill the woman when the children are just looking on. Be human. So the rest is stopped. Kati, the woman says that he didn't feel the pain of the what? the pain of the beatings, the physical pain. But when he saw her children crying, where the girl was pulling her daddy's hand, it was pulling her that, come and help mommy, come and help mommy. Mommy is being beaten. And the boy was just trying to struggle, short as he was, to see that the mother is not beaten.
Yes.
He told me that that's when he started dropping tears. And when the Mulamu who was cooking water, who was boiling water, just went out, he poured a flask of water on the left hand. In fact, the wound, the scar was there. And what happened, this was funny. In the court, the first witness was the Mulamu. When Mulamu came and said,
as prosecution witness or defense witness?
Prosecution.
Yes.
Nagamba, it's me, I was there, that woman killed my brother. Then the judge asked her, you poured what, hot water? Yes. You, when you knew that it's hot. So they became friends in prison. Yes, she was the chief, the prosecution witness.
And the convict, yes.
The Mulamu and the convict.
Haj Ashraf, the way this conversation works is that we get a lot of interaction, so we get people to participate in the conversation.
Exactly.
Just to allow them to sort of let the flow go. I can see Brenda's hand is up. I think something is burning inside her. Let's just hear from Brenda. Probably she has a question for you that might help to guide our conversation. Brenda, good evening and welcome to the conversation.
Hi, thanks for the introduction there, guys. Kassim, thank you for putting this talk on together. I'm listening in, and I am really thankful for you guys putting this speech together. I've heard about this through one of my clients. I think this is a brilliant talk that you're hosting. I think these are topics that we don't tend to discuss very openly, and it's really important. Happy Women's Day, by the way. International Women's Day. Yeah. My question is to you guys here. Are there any support systems that are in place for these women particularly? Myself, coming in from a holistic background, I appreciate that sometimes, you know, especially where there's a lot of stress involved, I think sometimes we find ourselves, whether it's women or men, we find ourselves making irrational decisions on some topics, you know, and these things can impact our lives and make us act out of anger. And I think there is a greater issue at play here. Perhaps it's how we manage stressful situations. And I wonder whether there is any support mechanism for these women to understand how they might have put themselves into these type of situations.
Do you mean support systems inside prisons or once they are out of prison?
I suppose I would like to know whether there is anything, whether in prison or out of prison.
Yes. All right, Brenda, I think Haj Ashraf is there, and I think it tallies very much with the question that Hajat Sarah Semakura had put in the chat room, which is saying, Haj Ashraf said that the women get rehabilitated. How would someone who is in prison for life benefit from rehabilitation? I think the simple to that one is that many of these actually, they don't serve life sentences, they serve long sentences, but then end up coming back. Haj Ashraf, you've had the question on rehabilitation. Is there any support system for these women, either inside prison when they're getting prepared to be released, or once they're out and beginning life? Actually, I think we might be having one of the women tonight here on the show, if it is possible. So Haj Ashraf, is there any support in response to Brenda's
the support? I was impressed with the support. The way these women talk, you see, I told you the difference between when you are talking to somebody who has been there for just a year. For example, if somebody is convicted and given 8 years. If you talk to her when she has been there for just only 2 years or 1 year, you will see that she's not welcoming. But those who have been there for 6 years, at Luzira, even they're allowed to go out and buy food and come back. That's how far they are being rehabilitated. Otherwise, if they are not rehabilitated, the moment she will go out, she will never come back.
Now, you've had an opportunity, Haj Ashraf, to speak to women who have been released after so many years. How easy was it for them to get reintegrated back into society, get accepted even back into society?
Okay, let me give you an example. There's one called, the one who is coming, I think, there's one called Acidi and the one called the baby toy. Baby toy just threw the baby into the toy because she was pregnant, 9 months, she was about to deliver, and the man beat her. So with that anger, when she delivered, she just threw the baby to the toilet. But the baby was rescued.
Alive.
Now, yeah, when she was there. But she was given 8 years because she told me that the judge told her that now I'm going to keep you until the baby is old enough not to pass through that hole into the pit latrine. So by the time she came out, the baby was 8 years. Who was the baby? Now the child is 8 years. But the way they were associating with the baby was allowed to was usually being brought to prison. And it was really the motherly love was there. All this is done in prison. Otherwise, it would have come out when the baby is even angry with her that your mama answered on the toilet. But they try as much as possible to rehabilitate them. Then even this Kakumbi, the one who hit the man with
the husband with the
husband, sorry, with the Kakumbi, they make sure that your relatives, for example, the mother was the one who, the mother of the husband who died is the one who usually to take the children to the woman, such that they receive that motherly love. By the time she was released, the relationship between her and her children was really good. So at least I was impressed with that. Especially with Rosita.
Yes, Haj Ashraf, you know, when you get to prison, one of the biggest crimes that you can commit once you arrive into prison as an inmate, I mean, I've never been an inmate, and may God forbid, but I've worked in prison so much. I've worked in prisons for so long, Haj Ashraf. One of the biggest crimes that you can commit inside the prison is, for example, to rape a young girl or a baby or whatever. If you get into prison and you're a rapist, it's a big deal. If you're a murderer, that's a big, big deal. You will get punished in prison. How did these women get received inside prison? Is that something that you spoke to them about, like their first day in prison and how they were perceived?
Okay. Usually, yes, for a person who has entered prison, stigma is there. You are stigmatized yourself. But the women who are there, all the prisoners, the rest were there, especially on the side of women, first they don't tease. They didn't tease fellow women. They just listen to them because most of their problems are the same. Domestic violence. There are very few. You interviewed that one was is a robber. Is a robber. That one is a robber. Embezzled the money. Those are very few. But most of them, it's because of domestic violence. So they share their problems, and when they share, they start discussing freely. And for the first 2 months, at least, most of the women they come down and they become friends. In a prison, the first day you get a friend from the first day. So that the first 2 days, the stigma is there because of the crime someone committed. 2, plus, for example, if you kill a husband, killing a husband is really very trying moment. But most of those who kill, they prefer to stay in prison than coming out. The first days,
Yes, because the society would be very
very harsh, and they don't like them, so they prefer to stay there. That's why they get friends easily inside than outside. And they don't usually want to come out, even going to court.
So
even
Brenda,
going to court, some of them cry.
So Brenda, listening to this from the explanations, just the first story, and we are going to continue listening to more and more of the conversations. Haj Ashraf has actually decided he's been writing a lot of stuff that has come out along the lines of these conversations. Very interesting stories, actually, that I would say, end up becoming books. And that's why I found this actually to be a very resourceful person on this. But Brenda, and I'm going to spread that very question to other people participating tonight, as we do normally in this global community conversation. Brenda, having listened to this, how does this make you feel? The examples so far, just the 2 examples that we've had, Acid and Kakumbi, and is it Toilet Boy or Toy Boy? How does that make you feel?
Well, I honestly, as a woman, personally, I would say I've grown up in a home where domestic violence has been a thing. So I know I have seen that from just on the outlook, and also experienced that myself personally. Unfortunately, but maybe fortunately in some ways, but my concern there is it's great that these women try to make bonds whilst they're in prison, because I think that in itself is a sense of belonging and a sense of comfort, because we are human beings at the end of the day. I think that's important to look out. It's important to remember we're human first, and trying to address those issues, particularly that perhaps might lead a woman herself to commit such a crime, I think is important. And I think there's a gap there perhaps that needs to be addressed. Mental health in general, whether it's male or female, I think the services that perhaps can assist people to understand their actions before they make certain actions, and understand perhaps why they might have made some actions. I think that's important, because if we're trying to bring this to an end, I think those issues need to be addressed. It's helpful that there are support systems to help women coming out of prison to support their livelihoods and their families' livelihoods. But I think the mental health aspect still needs addressing. And I think that's something where perhaps, some more information would be helpful to help those that are really going through some difficult times.
But Brenda, some diseases are difficult to treat. Diseases like jealous, it's difficult to treat. Someone catches their husband cheating, not that it's right, but then they end up bobbiting them. I mean, sort of chopping off their manhood. That is sort of in a spur of a moment, and then they just think about what they have done quite later on. How can we deal with issues like jealous, which is a natural phenomenon?
I don't know what the answer to that is, but from my own personal experience, I can say things like jealousy, for instance, might that needs to be explored more, because sometimes, when we find ourselves in certain points in life, I suppose jealousy itself, sorry to come back, jealousy itself can be broken down into many, what might make someone feel jealous. Is it actually jealousy, or is it something else that's underneath the surface that we're not really reaching out to? There are so many aspects of the mind here. This is again where I bring this back to mental health. You understand? Sometimes, our minds are the most powerful, but also, very dangerous to our thought processes, and it's important to understand where we are or where we find ourselves in life, and to understand that thought process. I think, we really need to have those support systems in place, to help us make better decisions.
Brilliant, Brenda. Thank you very much. I can see 2 hands up. Actually, I would have gone to Hajat Sarah first, but I would go to Chigongo because that's the first man voice that we are getting other than our special guest. Isa Chigongo, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Isa, are you there? Hello, Isa, your hand was up and then you disappeared all of a sudden. Let me get Isa Kigongo and then I'll come to Hajat Sarah because I wanted to have a man's voice listening to all of this. Do you get scared to get married? Kigongo, Isa, I think I've just seen you. Isa Kigongo, your hand was up and I'm coming to you. You have been listening to this. You had something to say to this one. Hearing about the women who killed their husbands, your own take.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nice to meet all the members here. There is something we have, mashallah, there is something we have to put in our minds, is that one, all of us, we are not perfect. That's one. Then secondly, the way we solve some of these conflicts, because some of them, they can be solved in amicable ways, besides being so hungry and you have to because you have found your wife in committing zina with another, committing zina basically, it doesn't mean that you have to kill her to kill her, or if you find that you have another a second wife or a third wife. I think what matters a lot is the way we solve these conflicts, means of conflicts, and these are some of them. They are brought up from the childhood.
Isa, let me just put this to you. Do you know how it feels to find your wife with another man? Do you know how it feels?
Basically, I don't know, but Sheikh, I was talking to one of my colleagues and I told him that if you have to expect anything bad from a friend or from a wife, remember in earlier conversations, you read some of the conversation where our colleague said that a woman has omchala ina enkwe nyingi nyo kusinga is a shayateen. When I interpret that ayah within my circles, I usually tell them that I don't know whether I'm going far away from what Allah said in the Quran, but I believe that when Allah was talking about the woman, besides all the things God created, and if you put that ayah into your head, I think you can move and bear some of these consequences. Sheikh, when you are doing good to me,
Isa, if you see the message in the chat room, Moto E here is saying, Isa, Moto E is saying here that he thinks most of these crimes are not premeditated. Like Haj Ashraf said, women react in the moment and only think about it later. They think about the consequences later. So it's really hard to discuss this without educating men about being sensitive to the feelings of the women in their lives. So if you talk about the idea that we can try to look at how to solve some of these things without necessarily reverting to anger. A lot of times this is just a reaction. You react and then you think about it later.
Sheikh, I agree with you and plus a colleague what he has said, but here we are, that when you visit Islam, what it talks about when you are hungry, how you deal with it, how you control your hungriness and everything. Then besides that, but one of another critical element within life is patience. And this is something which goes beyond. When I'm listening to one of my sheikhs, it's called Sheikh Gorobi. He told me that where you feel that you can't go any further with patience or with patience, that means you are losing something. You are next to overcome the situation.
Right.
So
Okay.
if we can put this in
if we
our
can.
minds, not only men, but even women, I think we can do something.
All right. Thank you
I
very
think
much.
if we give, if we consider that principle of being patient, no matter that.
Okay, I think your line is getting faulty there, Isa Kigongo. Thank you very, very much for that. Haj Ashraf, I bring you back into the conversation. We just looked at two cases. You dealt with quite a number of cases. Any other interesting case that you think is worth mentioning? In your conversations in prison, did someone else stand out? I mean, just the kind of mood within the prison, speaking to these women. Was there sometimes, would it be you talking to one person, or would it be maybe others being able to listen in? Did you have to go into like a separate room and, you know, interview them, or were they like in an open space where you had an opportunity to sort of, you know, discuss with them?
You know, most of them had already told their stories. They know each other's stories.
Yes.
That's why they nickname themselves after the weapons they used.
Yes.
Now this one, Chigambia. What Chigambia did, in fact, Chigambia was even a Mchiga.
Yes.
She told me that the husband used to come back drunk. And whenever the husband came drunk, she could beat her. Now, she had become immune of the beating. But one day, the girl had just come back from school. When the man returned again drunk, the girl was asleep. And when he looked into the bedroom of the girl was already sleeping and snoring. Then he just started, why haven't you greeted me? You are here, I pay fees. The man just started to beat the girl.
The daughter, yeah.
The woman became very annoyed. He just got the kijambia and cut off the hand of the husband.
The husband, yes.
The husband. The husband bled to death. Okay. So now when you look at such a situation, and in most cases, just looking at it up superficially, that woman you would say she was right to hit her, but because she didn't think twice, she didn't think twice, she just reacted with anger immediately. And she told me that she would have beaten me again, but not her daughter.
His daughter, yes.
So look at that.
So in speaking to them, Haj Ashraf, did they look like remorseful about what they had done? Did they feel like to regret after those years in prison? Did they feel like if they were given a chance again, would they do it again? Would they do how would they do it differently?
That's what I liked with it. No, I wouldn't wish them to go into prison, but that's what I liked with imprisonment.
Yes.
Most of them, not most of them, all of them I interviewed had been rehabilitated. They wouldn't wish to do it again. Yeah. And again, their main concern, or they blame themselves about acting before thinking.
Yes.
And acting in anger.
Right. Just hold that thought, Haj Ashraf, because I'd like us to get us into a little bit of depth, because I know the conversations I've had with you, lots of stories regarding this particular topic that we're doing tonight. Brian, and then I'll come to Sheikh Idris Impanga. Brian, your hand was up. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Assalamu alaikum wa
alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the conversation.
if we're talking about what brings up the jealousy or what brings out with actions we do when we catch our men in few actions, what I could bring it up to, first of all, we're the weakest link in the marriage most times. Most times, we're the weakest link.
Who?
And
the
then
men or the women?
the women. Of course, I'm a
Yes.
woman. I'm going to talk about half of
No,
that.
no, I'm saying when you said the weakest link, I was wondering whether you're saying men are the weakest.
No,
Sorry.
women.
Yes.
It's women.
Yes.
And the thing is, what brings that to act maybe to the extreme is because the way the men has been behaving towards us. Probably they've been beating us, they've been doing this and that. And the only way to get back to them is when you go to the extreme. That's most times what happens. That's what I think anyway. I've not witnessed it before, but I've had one of the lady had to wait for the man to sleep and then go to a small table, put the hand there and chop the hand off. Because guess what? That's the way you guys push us. You're beating us, you're doing this, and then next time I find you with lovey-dovey with us, young girl, what do you expect from me?
So Ryan, why can't you just walk away? Why can't you leave the relationship instead of having to leave someone, you know, with these kinds of scars? Why can't you just walk away? Because we fall in love when we love people. Actually, you see a man chasing after a woman. You see the amount of trouble that men go through, throwing those little stones or pebbles on the roofs, and the way the stones, you know, slide, and it's a sign for the person to come out. You go through that, and then ultimately you get someone's daughter, and then you become this violent. Why, you know, why can't someone just walk away? Why can't you walk away just in case you feel like you've had enough, instead of waiting for the man and chopping off the hand?
Yeah, there's few things that tie us around. Women, we are just kids. Most times it's kids who tie us around. You have kids, and then you're like, after most times when these men, they are violent, because they know you put them in trouble, they come flowers, you come this, and then sometimes they kind of do things like that to bring it back. No, I'm going to change. So those are the things that keep you going. And then we sometimes say, let me walk away, go back home, and then they come for you from home. They come, please come back. This time I've changed. I've done this. I've done that. So, and if you to go back to people who for rehabilitation, I think most times doesn't work for everyone anyway. It doesn't. That's what I believe anyway. It does work for some people, but sometimes it doesn't work for some people. That's what I just brought in.
Thank you very much, man. Yeah, I can feel the angst. I can feel the angst in you, but I'm just wondering whether there is no alternative. Haj Ashraf, listening to Ryan's anger there, how does that make you feel, given the kind of stories that you've had? Women react because they've been harmed, and I'm wondering, why can't they just walk away? Is that a question you ever asked at all? You know, why did you just walk away from the relationship?
Now, the Kakumbi I've told you about, Kakumbi, they were in love all the time. Now this one just happened suddenly.
The cheating in the bathroom. So for those who have just joined that couldn't hear Kakumbi's story, man goes out, comes home, goes to the bathroom. It's the mizigo, it's the rental situation. Goes into the bathroom, shared public bathrooms, you know, within rental situation, and then wife takes towel only to find the man seriously undoing his deed in the bathroom. And the next thing that happens is we end up with the whole. Yes, Haj Ashraf, go ahead. So they were seriously in love.
Now, just imagine, even if you're a man, you just imagine that if that was your wife, and this if that was your wife. Now, this woman goes back, and on the way, just as she decided to leave them, but going back with the thoughts, she just picked the hole she found on the way and went back to finish up. The woman, moreover, she was supposed to finish the woman, but the man decided to save the girlfriend.
So stand in the way and protect the girl. And then he took the hit.
He took the hit.
I can see a hand up from Moto E here. I think it's a sad situation, although we are laughing. Moto, you have the mic. Moto, unmute yourself, please. What are you saying to Haj Ashraf, to the situation that we are dealing with at the moment? Moto E, I've asked you to unmute yourself, please. Hello, Moto E, your hand is up and I'm trying to get to you. All right, Sheikh Idris Mpanga is back. I'll just go to him while Moto E. Oh, Moto is here, and then we'll come to Sheikh Idris. Moto E, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you today?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Happy Women's Day.
Thank you. And you brought such a big, disturbing topic.
Yes, I'm sorry.
As I said in my comments, we're looking at the women, but killing their husbands. But women killing their husbands is a consequence of very many things. It's a result. That, as I said earlier on, you cannot talk about the result without thinking about the cause.
Yes.
We have had very many talks where people are saying they prepare women for marriage, and no one is preparing men for marriage. So the one thing men have, as they say, men are generally hunters. And when they're hunting, they'll entice you with anything. That's how they promise you heaven on earth, because they want to have you in. And then once you enter the marriage, they act like the taxi drivers looking for the next passenger. Now, the example they're giving of Kakumbi is
Brenda is giving you the 5. Brenda is giving you the 5 there.
Yeah, it's a typical example. You know, we are having in-laws you're living with, and maybe they don't like you as a woman, and they're helping your husband or kujoga, you know? So women bottle a lot of stuff in their heads. We've had instances of back in the days where a husband could come home with a new woman and tell the wife in the house, you know? So you can imagine what such women go through. Now, traditional women will resort to witchcraft and other things. Now, the current woman will think like, because to another thing of equality, so I call it something, you know, I want to do something. Naked, unfortunately, we do not plan. As I said, it's not premeditated. In that moment is, I want to inflict pain. No, without thinking that pain can lead to death. You asked a question, why do the women walk away? Most women, we are home builders or homemakers. You meet a man and then thinking about the future. In fact, most women, it's kind of funny. You are with a man for a few months, but you're already planning 10 years ahead. So you invest your time, you invest your energy in everything. Then when you start having children, you're looking at this home like it's a permanent home. Not all women have the ability to walk because people will talk. I know of someone who got married, very huge, lavish wedding in Kampala. But in 2 months, she had had enough. But the thing was, and it will always be your fault. So that thing keeps you in a home because people are going to talk who know absolutely nothing of what has been happening in the house. So that keeps you in there. Maybe they don't leave money at home for food or stuff, but you bottle all these things in. So so suddenly something happens in your head, it just clicks. This is why that Kakumbi woman again, she regretted immediately because the intention wasn't to kill the husband. It was just a reaction. And can you imagine, this said the other woman into the bathroom. And maybe she wanted you to come and see it. So you are hurt. So we cannot talk about women killing husbands unless we talk about the human nature. The men need to be sensitive. You asked one of the, I think the first gentleman to talk, have you, about how would he react? He
found his wife, yes.
I've had many men talk about this. They say men will cheat. You know? So you men never think about it. No cheating with one, the second one, the third one. Womanizer. Sometimes you hide it and sometimes you splash it in their faces. So even to be so
All right.
women
Moto,
killing,
I can hear you. I can hear your passion
the
as
end
well.
result, it's a
Very good.
reaction to whatever is happening earlier on.
Atuletemu Sheikh Jafar Mpanga, and please feel comfortable to speak in either language, because I can see our community here do not feel impeded at all. If you feel like you'll be comfortable rolling in the other lingua, just go ahead. We just want to have a conversation. Just to remind you, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we're live on 75W Radio. We're also live on Umma Connect, on Zoom, and on YouTube, where we are streaming live at this particular moment. You can catch up with any of our programs. Just go to YouTube, just type in Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira, or just look for Umma Connected, and you'll be able to see programs. Or just go to our Facebook and just look for 75W Radio, and all the programs will be there for you eyes. Sheikh Jafar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sorry, I kept you waiting for long.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, Sheikh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ba'd. Sebo omutesitesi wa programu yaffe tweyanza nnyo kuleetera ensonga ezitukwatako obutereevu. Neebaza nnyo Hajji Ashraf, nzize bugenzeemu naye ebyensanze nga bigambo binene. Neebaza nnyo n'abakyala babaddeko abateesa n'abakyagenda mu maaso. Katonda abaweemu obulungi. Ebigambo bya Hajji Ashraf byayogedde binzijukizza. Waliwo omusomesa omu yasomesa emabega awo n'agamba nti omukyala endowooza ye oba eva ku spinal cord, I don't remember. Yes. Nti ye bw'alowooza ekintu ekyo kijjirawo straight away. Nti ate ffe tulina endowooza yaffe abasajja yanjawulo. Kakati ekyo kindeese wa lwe ngasse ekya Ashraf nga ndabira ddala omusomesa oli kye yasomesa, olabira ddala nga kyekyo nti bo reaction yaabwe eba ku speed, ky'oba olaba oli agambye nti nesse nzekka siganye wabaawo obuzibu ng'omukyala avuddeko bw'agambye ekituufu, naye olaba nga gundi eno ekintu kyakoze oba kyagenda okukola nga kinene nnyo, obaoliawo si kyobe yandibadde ayinza okukola kyokkola, naye olw'okuba ye obutonde bwe kibumugamba n'akikola mu ngeri eyo. Sebo Hajji Ashraf weebale nnyo okunoonyereza kwokwo. Mpozi mu kino
Sheikh Jafar, Hajji Sara ndaba alina akamwokya, ayinza oba nga alina kyayagala
ateekewo.
Please talk to Hajji Sara.
Assalamu alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Your hand was up and I was Hajji Ashraf.
Yeah. Shame Panga yanzijeyo kubanga what he's saying is kind of putting us down. He doesn't seem to appreciate the kind of patience women have and the amount of time women invest in their marriages. I don't side with women who kill their husbands, but I could also understand where they come from, especially those who do it in self-defense or impulsively. Yeah, most of the time, women take a long time to take action on two things. Like you could have a woman like Ryan has explained. Was it Ryan or Moto? I think Moto. Yeah, she did really give a very good account of a woman and their patience. But when they say that our thinking is all from the spinal cord, I think they just put us down a bit, because I would think we have bigger brains and we think deeper than men do, because we take a long time to react on two things. Women can stay in marriage for a long time under a lot of abuse and they take it in. Yeah, and they don't want to break their marriages for their family, for their children, and for the society. They always hang on to the marriages. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sheikh Jafar, Isma technical department in Kusabe, please have our next clip ready. The woman who was arrested for killing her husband, and she said she could do it so many more times. Sheikh Jafar, genda mumaso.
Neyanziza nnyo Hajji Sara. Sigambye nti nno ekikulu bisomwa busomwa ebyo byenjogedde si byange. Ekyokubiri siyinza kugamba nti abakyala sibagumiikiriza. Era omukyala watuukira okukola ekyo toyinza kugamba nti atabadde na byakola ki na bugumiikiriza. Mu bintu mirundi mingi abakyala bagumiikiriza nnyo, naye tekijjaawo kiri. Ekirala bwe tudda mu ddiini, ompise Sheikh, alhamdulillah ndi Sheikh, Nabbi sallallahu alaihi wasallam bwe yali afa yatulamira ekintu ky'abakyala okubakwata abasajja mu ngeri ey'enjawulo. Mu bigambo bye ng'afa yagira nnyo ensonga eyo yagikkaatiriza okuba nti nno abasajja bwe tuba n'abakyala baffe tube beegendereza gye bakola ki gye bali, okubalabirira obulungi obutabateekako bintu biyinza batuusa mu mbeera ki mu mbeera eyo. Ekirala kinaasembayo, Nabbi sallallahu alaihi wasallam bwe yali era ayogera ku mukyala yagamba nti yatondebwa mu lubiriizi lw'omwami. Ndowooza ffenna eddiini zonna ekyo zikikkiriza nti kaawa yava mu lubiriizi lwaki. Naye Nabbi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ye n'ayongerako n'agamba nti ate olwawaggulu olwo lwa wansi kiteeka oba lwa waggulu ntereeza olubiriizi olwo lwakyama. Akati buli lwogezaako okulutereeza ate omenya luki lumenye. So be careful, tubeere beegendereza nnyo eri bakyala baffe mu buli ngeri yonna. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikh, it was Hajj Ashraf financial okogera Jolly. Then we come to Catherine Sali, who joined us for the first time I think tonight as well. Hajj Ashraf, respond to Sheikh Mbaga, please.
Okay, kyemyagadde okwogerako ndikadde kuleeta ono. This one is called Nur. Nuru, they had financial problems, they had a husband way. After getting those financial problems, they decided to go for Cheyo. The husband went to Japan and she went to Middle East. Kakati, the husband was the first to come back. Already here, they were building a house on the Entebbe Road. Kakati, when the husband came back, even the woman went on sending money from Middle East. Husband namaliriza nyumba. After that, husband nafuna mukazi omulala. In fact, he went even to nalaba Sheikh that my woman is outside, yagenda tetukanyiza, and she was allowed to marry. All of a sudden, the woman received the news that
omukyala muleta mwene nyumba eyazimbisibwa sente ze ne sente z'omukyala ali mu Middle East.
Exactly. They started staying there. Nibabeeramu oli n'afuna amawulire nti your man, your husband, yawasa. N'akuŋŋaanya sente, she came back. She had some money. Aweza sente ziwera. But what she did, ya hiding herself. Nga husband tamanyi nti wali. N'agenda ebwayise n'apangisa bigreda. They were not around. N'ayingira enju ng'ate bali asikara mumanyi asikara yamutuma, Uganda, get me something out. Ne house good n'amutuma and demolished the house. Kakati badimolishing a house. Omusajja bwe yajja n'akubira omusajja nti ennyumba yange ngitutte. The woman, the husband n'ajja alabe okutuuka awakanga ennyumba eri down, completely down. N'ebintu nga byonoonye. And he took herself to Katwe police station. Awo watandikirawo. Kati embeera eyo njagala okwogera ku kya Haji, njagala tutunuulire kya Sheikh, tutunuulire that woman. Embeera gy'alimu. Whereas tugamba nti banafu baaki. Ono teyatta, but she demolished the house. Era baamusiba lwaki? Lwa malicious damage.
Yeah.
But when you look at her, ngoyagala kola muzannyo ng'olinga amuwagira. What she did. But sometimes these women were tugamba nti banafu. We know that they are weak, but we push the weak mind on the wall.
Yes. A question here. I think Catherine, sorry, you have the microphone. Sheikh Jafar ungenda kuza sebo de kamaro kulia mu Catherine omgenyi wa form pia. Catherine, welcome to the conversation. This is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim, Kayira, and we are talking women who kill their husbands. Catherine, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hearing me. Do you mind if I speak in Luganda?
Oh, yes, no, please go ahead. I think majority of the people on here, if there is any non-Luganda speaker, please raise your hand and I'll translate for you. Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay, I live in the UK and I work in...
Luganda too. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Mbera mu UK naye nkola n'abakyala abo abavudde mu maka gaabwe nga bakubiddwa. Waliwo ekintu ekimu ewaffe kye tutannaba kukkiriza oba okumanya lwaki abakyala balwa mu maka mu luvannyuma ne batta babba baabwe. Culture yaffe egamba nti omukyala alina okubeera wansi w'omwami okukkiriza ebintu omwami by'agamba. Mu Luzungu oba mu gye bayita submissiveness. Kaakati kaluki eyo ekugaana okwerwanako, ekugaana okwogera ebintu bye wandyagadde okwogera, ate bw'obyogera olabika ng'oli wa lugezigezi. Kati abakyala basinga babeera ndooza nga 80% ewaffe e Uganda bali mu mbeera eyo yakubeera submissive to the husband.
Nga bali mu bugubi naye nga tebalina kyakukola, tebalina bye bavaamu. Nga
culture yebakutte. Kaakati ne kituuka ku ng'oli mu maka ng'ebintu by'ogenda okuluuzinga ng'ovudde mu maka ago nga bingi. Oyinza okuba nga toyina mulimu, ezo ssente z'ogenda okola ki okufiirwa. Abaana ogenda baliisa otya? W'ogenda obbasuza. Abantu kye bagenda okwogerako banaagamba batya. Ebyo ne bikwatira awo nabyo. N'obeera mu bugubi olw'ensonga ezo. Kaakati abantu bwe babuuza lwaki omuntu oyo aluddeyo okubeera mu maka gwe kumala emyaka 2, ebyo ebintu byagumidde. Kati bwe zivaako kibanga kwegamba kukwatiriza lizard, n'ogenda n'ogigoba n'ogikwatiriza mu nsonda, ebuuka. Kaakati awo y'ensonga nti wano bagamba nti bwe batwala mu kkooti bateekawo gundi, what are circumstances that brought this person to this point? Bazibuuza, wayina ssente, wayina obusobozi okuvaawo awaka, kalucha yegamba ki? Ebyo byonna babiteeka mu gundi mu consideration ng'ekkooti esalawo omusango gwe bagenda okusalira ng'osse ebbaawo olw'ensonga ezo ez'amaka. Kakati ewaffe abakyala abasinga basibe nti batta babba baabwe naye tebaababuuza kyekyabatuusa ku nsonda eyo okubaluka omuntu n'amutta n'amufumita ebiso 100 naye buli kiso kirina ensonga. Kakati ekintu ekyo okuggyako nga tukituuseeko oba nga bagundi bannamateeka beewaffe nga bagenzeko mu gundi mu mateeka agalala ag'eggwanga endala okulaba ensonga lwaki omukyala atuuka ku kisenge n'akola ekintu ekitaliyo ekitali mu kya bukyala. Nti waliwo ekitusindiikiriza n'otuuka ku kiseera ekyo eky'okukola omuntu obulabe. Naye obulabe bwe buba nga bunene nnyo oba otuukizibwako obulumi bw'amaanyi okukola ekintu ekyo.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And you have been very brilliant in that. I'm sure Hajashra Fajakweta reaction Jakora. Sheikh Jafar to get to a conversation. So remember, you can keep your messages and bring them in the chat room. The chat room has been absolutely busy. Mariam Raj is saying most of the time men cause it. All women just defend themselves but ends up killing. Musa Bugema says, I think in the heat of the moment, your head doesn't think straight. Brenda is saying true talk, motto E. And Catherine had said earlier, it takes time. Those was Zechag justifying to show that. Go ahead. Sheikh Jafar inakazinda rusiba.
Alhamdulillah sibonyaziza we bali kunkumyawo barakallahu fikum bananga abateesa namwe bali nnyo naye ekigambo kyange ekigambo ky'obusiraamu kiriko ne Nabbi sallallahu alaihi wasallam kyagezaako tubuulira yali agamba yali atugamba ffe abasajja okuba nti nno tetunyigiriza wakati aja alese omuntu na alese omukyale yaleta greda okiraba ngeyi ensonga bannange nki ensonga nkulu ensonga nyingi mu kino kyengezaako bakinyinza okukomerera nakyo nti tuddeyo mu basajja naffe twetunulemu abasajja betunulemu ngeri gye tuyisaamu bannaffe obufumbo kubanga gundi ezo zonna violence mu nakalimu akabo ogenda zitunulira ssebo omutesitesi era ziva ku mpisa abantu gye beeyisaamu ewaka waabwe ezireetera ebintu
waliwo abuuziza mu chatroom n'aga nti what would a man do in a similar situation fanaudhu billahi min dhalika sikikwagaliza naye okomyewo awaka ogenza okutuuka hajjati waliwo amwebereze how would you react?
Ekigambo kinene sahi ekigambo kinene siyinza kumanya naki kyenyinza kukola
nze ndowooza ntunula butunuzi bbali n'enzira yo
kigambo kinene kakati gwe Mungu akusaase oyinza okigumira naye oyinza waliwo atajja omulala
tekuba kuguma sheekhi tekuba kuguma kuba kusalawo nti mu kifo ky'okukola ekinene afulumye n'ogenda n'otambula eyo n'otuyana n'otumera ku bisenge
kakati ke kali akaspinal cord okalabyako kuba kakati omusajja osooka n'ogira okafuna ako akadda mu kisenge ebbali mu nsonda nkole ki bwe ngenda luzira akugwa okafuna naye kati oli anyigirizibwa ebbanga kakati bw'agattako naki
njagadde nnyo okuba nti ngazi ya conversation naye kirabika buli lwe tukwata abantu tulina we tutuuka ne kabugumiza emitwe hajja tusaara komawo
Sheikh Jafari atulimbye nnyo there is no man who can go back mu kisenge n'abeera nti alindiridde alowooza ekyokukola ekyo olimbye omukazi yakakikola naye si musajja. That's a lie.
Abasajja bakikola nnyo hajja
tusaala ngasanze mukazi we mu kikolwa
oyagala nkubuulireyo
that is an imagination of what a man would do. Yeah,
I'm liking this conversation. Let's get Uma connected at Jemu Hajat Sara. Sigara, wow, don't go anywhere. Uma connected, I can see the hand up. Anaba Usama.
Ajat Sara Chagamba.
Zaid Mahabuba.
Alaikum
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yanziza program ennungi ena alhamdulillah.
Amin.
Asokere ku Kayira. Kyetublaming abakyala oba kyetulowooza nti abakyala bakola n'abasajja bakikola. Abasajja okutta n'okuyira acid. Eggulu just yesterday banyumiriza omusajja eyanyumiriza nga yali amanyi omuwala bulungi nnyo omuwala nga mulungi nnyo kati n'asanga omusajja yamuweerera n'amala campus bwe yamala campus ono ataddemu sente z'okuba ku senior 4 omuwala amaze campus omuwala n'agana boyfriend omulala kati yakola n'agana n'amuyira acid omusajja yayira omuwala acid omuwala yamalawo n'afa omusajja naye n'akola ki n'anywa acid naye n'atake away his life. So abasajja omuwala gwe mmanyi in fact anti wange bamu emasaka eyo omusajja yamuyira acid baawe gwayinamu n'abaana yamuyira acid olw'okuba mukyayi omusajja ne bamusiba eruzira omusajja yayira acid those accident ezo ziraba nti abakyala sibe bakikola bunnaffe tukikola Hajja Sala kyagamba kisobola okubeerawo tukikola oluusi kuba mukwano gwange yasanga omusajja mu kisenge kye n'omukyala mu nnyumba yamukuba ekikonde ne kimugyamu eriiso.
Daba bwogenda mu maaso ga Katonda ng'olina ne evidence of your actions.
Yamukuba ekikonde ne kimugyamu eriiso naye neyitwala ku poliisi. So n'asavinga emyaka gye n'afaayo. Hajja Sala kyagamba abasajja abamu kati manyi omusajja yasanga London yasanga omukyala we mu kikolwa ekyo n'adda ku madaala n'abaleka bamaliriza n'oli n'afuluma.
Which I was just about to say, Nifa in the chat room is saying no man walks away. I know one who literally stalks the ex-wife just because he was told he isn't loved anymore. Nifa, I wish to disagree with you. Men do walk away. There are men that will walk away, and there will be exceptional men who will actually walk away. Although the reaction is
Kayira. Abasajja no tebali exceptional. Lwakuba nti omuntu tebamanyi bumanya naye abasajja bangi ne walk away.
Who simply walk away. Okay, barakallahu fikum Shezaid. Today we had Ashraf Semogere. Ndaba wo kiwanukazi iPhone, wo kiwanukazi zereka mukwate ngende Haji Ashraf anti bwatandika toyagala kuvaawo. Okay, kiwanukazi iPhone, please go ahead. Shezaid, it's okay nkubuuze kano nga kiwanuka bwajja. You caught your wife and may God forbid osanze mukyala wo n'omusajja. What would you do?
I walk away. Kati man ngenda kukola ki? One, ngenda mukola ki? Bano abatta Allah takkiriza kutta. You can't take a life. Second, ngenda kulwana naye result evaamu ki? Kubanga omuntu okubeera nga alisina musajja mu nnyumba yo. Kayira waba wakyaliwo laavaawo.
Aba amaze okumalayo, aba akumazeeyo.
Right. You just have to walk away.
Thank you very much. iPhone, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Panenze mbadde sijja na kuyingira mugundi kubanze ebintu ebirimu okutta mbase baliramu kubanze si ndabira danga kiri beyond me.
Well, it's a reaction. It's a reaction. It's an immediate reaction that comes as a result of
Indeed. Naye a conversation is so wonderful nti abantu lyomo ali kwegamba it is so touching to almost individually buli muntu agifeelinga nenina nze endowooza yange eri nti nandirowooza nti nga Seeka Zaidi bwayogedde nti buli muntu kino ekikolwa asobola okukikola. I mean either side buli side y'abasajja n'abakazi tukikola naye ninamu nze feeling egamba nti abasajja tuli babika bibiri n'abakazi babika bibiri. Ekintu ky'okutta kubanga kiri in humanity is not normal, si kya bulijjo. Whether premeditated overreaction, ekintu si kya bulijjo naye waliwo omukyala yagambye Brenda n'agamba nti waliwo mental problem mu bantu. Njagenda ku line eyo kubanga abantu bangi kati tolaba nti tulina examples zetuwadde wano waliwo agamba nti omusajja takikola. That is a view eyo tosobola ogirabira ku muntu omu kubanga omu yakola ekintu gundi nti bonna bwe bati bali kitegeera naye mental problem omuntu okuba nti kati waliwo oli gwe yagamba nti yamulaba yeebase n'afuna akameeza that is premeditated yakikola ki yagamba nti jakikola yakiplanning nga n'aganja kikola naye waliwo omuntu arashing obrashinze kati ng'omukyalo oli yalaba nga omwana we musajja atamidde akuba omukazi biki kati omuntu ng'oyo somehow nti ne bwoba omututte mu kooti lawyer I mean judge asobola okuwuliza ensonga ye n'alaba nti mu butuufu takiplaninga ngako ekintu kyajja buzi n'akikola naye either side abantu ffenna mulimu abakyamu n'abalungi ekintu ekya mental problem I think is a missing link. I think it should be talked. We should identify naddala abantu aba counseling abantu waliwo omuntu gw'owulira nga ye aga nti nze oyo kaalikola kino ate era n'akikola waliwo edda twali mu kyalo gye nakulira Masaka eyo omwana twasomako naye omwana oli twalinga mu ssomero n'agajja kwetta naye yetta nze kiri ekintu nali simanyi nti kisoboka okubaawo. Omwana yamala n'akola ki nga ye buli lukaseera ekintu bwe kito kati mugezanga ku bakyala oba omwami n'aganze bw'olikola kino nja kikola kino kuba nze sisobola kugamba mukazi wange nti nze kwendi kukwata n'omusajja nja kutta. It doesn't, I mean, in my head basically it doesn't work like that. Nze kuba mmanyi nti omukazi omukwano is not set in stone. Omukwano gubeerawo ate era ne gufa oba kale ne gukendeera. Kati there is no reason nze okuddira omukyala wadde okumukuba tekimaking sense kuba nti yayenze. Omukyala bw'ayenda kitegeeza aba takyanjagala talina mukyanjagalamu. You walk away, you find your way. No finding.
Thank you very much. I'll just go back to Hajj Ashraf. Catherine, hold that thought. Catherine, hold that thought. I'll come to you to Hajj Ashraf. Please, another story that might be able to make people reflect. So far from the stories you have used, examples almost are showing that the men were actually in the wrong. The women were almost acting out of self-defense. But I know I've had conversations with you in cases where we've seen that actually there was premeditation. Interesting that are beyond what we have seen so far. Probably one story that will help us get into that conversation, and then we'll go to Catherine. In the meantime, Isma, please, Kakripa Kabere ready so that we can just play it to help us just think through this process.
Ekisooka kya byonna wano baseeka babaddewo waliwo yebadde nange mbadde njagala okimbuuze kyogamba nti
kikubuuza bw'osanga mukyala wo n'omuntu okola otya?
Bakimbuliza emirundi mingi naye whoever asks that question nze mugamba nsaba Allah aleme kukikola ki kukindaga kubanga nyiza okugamba nja mukuba ate nze nenzirika buzirisi oyo nali mulabyeko ate ye yanga yakoze eki yazirise kakati tosobola kugamba kintu kati nenkuwayo ono kuba kati njagala ate wadde twogedde ku sayidi z'abakazi naye let me give you atono nagendako ne mbasajja. This one was from Masaka, yali akola magaali naye mundeebaawo waliwo somebody waliwo omugagga omu n'amuleeta because yamuleeta abeere ng'ayunga eggaali ezo and it works so well from the village. Yajjayo n'omuwala bwe yawasa ne bajja ne babeera ekyengera and nga bali mu happy marriage yaabwe gye bava n'agula n'emmotoka n'azimba n'okuzimba kati paka mukama we yagamba gendako e Japan neera nabimukolera bulungi nnyo. Went to Japan. Japan n'akolera ddala n'aweerezanga ssente yali akozewo n'edduuka lye olwo ddala gaalo bwe yajja mu kyalo ede Masaka yali mu dduuka kati aba ali eyo ng'afuna essimu namukasanga ali lubuto. He came back ebanga kwe yagenda okugamba namukasa nti I want to come back kankomewo byenkuŋŋaanyiza biweze namuga stay there for another year. Naye kyeyakola najja namusurprise nga n'akomawo nga namukasa wabula amaze okuzaala naye kali imagine nti yabeera n'omwana mundeebaawo amugenda emanju n'amuyonsa n'akomawo mu dduuka paka one day namukasolo yayomba naki n'omu ku bakozi n'abulira oli kamuyite ye Mukasa. Do you know that namukasa buli lwagenda n'abula ku ssaawa 6 aba agenze kuyonsa.
Ng'omusajja amabeere tagalaba nga yali ayambala giribaabu oba ate mpulira
ekyo ekintu ekyo nno kiri mu weeks 2 kubanga omusajja ye yali akimanyi nti ayonsa era nga tamukkiriza kumukwatako. Now n'amufollowinga okutuuka emmanju naye okumanya okusanga owa Chutex nga gwali naye ng'era owa Chutex omwana yo mu nsonyi okugendako ebitu gundi naye ng'omwana ayonka ebbeere limu nga n'owa Chutex ali ku ddala. Now that man reacted n'abuuka akwate ki omusajja alwane n'aseerera ate bwe yaseerera yagwira kaana ne kafa. Kati ali luzira bamusiba emyaka 2 tebaatunuulira kintu kyaliwo before
the cause. The mitigating circumstances, yes.
Naye we yali arrested, omukazi n'agamba yakutte omwana wange n'amukuba ku kisenge. Ate nga bw'otunda omwana engeri gye yamugwira oli omusajja nga yamenye kaki ensingo. So nti kizibu nnyo okugamba era toweeteekawo n'oga nti nze ntambula ne ŋŋenda. Just pray nti tokituukako. Akikutaase. Naye ng'agamba nti nze nja kutambula ŋŋende wali. Wallahi weetadde mu mbeera ey'okugera Allah kye yandibadde akuteerawo. It's so difficult. Reactions zaffe lwaki omuzannyo gwe nali mpandiika baali baguyita misanvu. To go and okugenda okukola gundi ezo interviews ezo mu makomera. Nti emisanvu egiri mu bufumbo mingi nnyo nnyo nnyo. Naye gwe olina okugijjamu, but how? Kati nze buli agamba nti nze bwe ndaba omukyala wange ne musanga ng'alina omusajja nvaawo ne ŋŋenda oba nze mukuba. Agamba nti mukuba oyo asinga okuzirika. Nagwe
nga bimusobedde amaanyi tegakyali mu mikono egyali.
Exactly. Kati omuwulidde nti abantu bano aba domestic violence kubanga buli maka nti kino ky'obamanya mukulu Kassim nti for us especially men ffe tuyigira ku mulimu. Baabakyala ate ne bajja nga okimanyi nti kino abasiraamu bagenda bayinza okundaba obubi. Naye okuwasa omukyala omusiraamu n'atali musiraamu. Omusiraamu ebiseera ebisinga yajja ne defense bamugamba bajja kuwasa genda nga weetegese. Naye ate oli ajja nga akimanya atali musiraamu nti munaye musikiriza musiraamu ajja kuleeta omulala. Kati kiti abo bawangaala nnyo okusinga bano abajja nga bazze kukola ki. Abasajja ne tugira ku taata bw'aba yali mukubi w'abakazi naye nja kukuba. Bw'aba yali yeeyisa bulungi ze saalaba ku kitaaye ng'akuba mukazi. Era nange ekitya nti ntandika nti okugalula oluyi oba omuggo nti omukazi. So that's the problem. Naye oli bw'aba yalaba nga taata agamba n'okugamba nti abakazi bawula miggo. So that's very difficult. Batujja batugamba nti waliwo basenga. Yes, basenga they are there. Naye teri bakojja. Ekyo tukyogera ku bulimba. Nze sikojja saamulaba kaŋŋamba nti jasira wabula nakola bya taata bye yakola. Naye bw'ogenda okutuuka mu komera obabuuza kaakati kikyoyizeemu. Kyekyasemmangayo kati kikyoyizeemu. Bambi most of those abali mu makomera akugamba nti ki. Naye Nuuru yaŋŋamba nti nze ndi musanyufu okugyawo ennyumba y'abazi. Nuuru yaŋŋamba yali happy nnyo era ne bw'avaayo n'agenda wa ne bw'amusisinkana amubuuza n'amukwata mu ngalo n'amugamba nti I'm satisfied naawe. Ffenna twagwa ki? Twagwa draw. Naye ekyo kirabo.
Yes. Bagenda kuteekamu ka break katono nnyo tugende ku video eno. Tudde wa Catherine, tudde wa Tiger in the photo as Hasfa Kasujja tubenga abawunzika program. Barakallahu fikum. Actually kirango olowooza yakaboosa akalala ketunaawunzika nakwe ekiro for food for thought for Okay, Isma, please let's play our video there. This is a woman who has been arrested for having killed her husband and she's not apologetic at all. Probably that might pick up our conversation as we go to Catherine, Tiger, and Hasfa Kasujja. Yes, go ahead, please. As you can see, that's Penelope, who is standing trial at the Bristol Crown Court, accused of the murder of her husband, David, at their home. But then when the arrest is taking place, something is happening. What's happened to the volume, though, is for some reason, I think the voice is not coming in. Can you hear anything? I can't hear anything. Abai, Jemudi, can you hear anything?
We can't hear it.
Yeah, the sound seems to be dead. Isma, the sound is not on. And therefore, probably as you try to correct that, see if it doesn't, then we'll just go to our guests. All right. Looks like it was almost coming on and it's not happening. All right, Isma, I think we'll just leave it. Let's go to Catherine and then we'll go to Tiger and Hasfaka Suja. Probably that will be taking us close to Haj Ashraf giving us that one last story that will be food for thought for tonight to take away. Catherine, go ahead, please. Oh, the video now has decided to play. Sorry, Catherine, let's just have that play quickly and then we'll come to you.
Under arrest with suspicion of step murder, mate. Under arrest with suspicion of step murder. You don't have to say anything, but it may help your defence. You do not mention when questioned anything you're later relying for. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
Just bear with me 2 seconds. There. I picked it up.
All right.
Just get there. All right, I want to go in. All right. No,
So,
he's on the kitchen floor. Can someone just stay with Devon while I go in?
there's nothing nasty, and I'm certainly not. My cape's in the.
Yeah, just
Ow,
wait
should
2
be
seconds.
hot.
All right, you okay? All right.
With any luck, you'll be too late.
Right, get the ambulance in. Pronto, we need
Oh,
CPR.
no, please don't.
Yeah,
You should have stabbed him a bit more. Yes, I stabbed him. Once, because he's a. He's an aggressive bully and nasty, and I've had enough. And when he said you wouldn't do it, I did it twice more.
No, my advice is don't talk about it now, okay?
No, I have no intention of not agreeing to what I've done.
Okay.
I know what I've done.
All right.
And I know why I've done it. And if I haven't done it properly, I'm really annoyed.
I'm further arresting you for murder.
Good.
I've already cautioned you, so your necessities for your arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation and stop further harm.
Sorry, that one's a bit tight.
So we're gonna move into the room in a minute.
The DO's just come out to check your temperature, and then we'll move you in.
It's my dread. All right.
I'm not
Talk now.
exactly.
Yeah. Mind dread.
Yeah. I'm very sorry for being a nuisance.
You've got to take a temperature, okay?
Yeah. Well, that'd be just really great. Get COVID on the top of this.
And are you with him now?
Well, I might just go and stab him again, but.
Oh, right, you've not stabbed him again.
Why?
Okay, so just listen to my voice. Okay,
Yeah.
stay on the line with me.
I am listening.
Okay, are you with the patient now?
Well, I'm in the lounge and he's in the kitchen bleeding to death with any luck.
All right, so just stay on the line with me.
Look, this is not, you're not.
All right, Isma, I think we can stop it there. The point I wanted to bring out has been reflected, and that was what was happening after this woman was arrested. She said she knew what she had done. She could do it again if actually she had to do it. She would do it 150 times. So she wasn't apologetic at all about what she had actually done, and that is killing or stabbing her husband. When women get angry, well, I think the word that is normally used is that hell knows, hell hath no what? Like
Fury.
a woman scorned. Oh, hell
has no fury.
Oh my God, yes, thank you very much. I've totally lost myself in there. Yes, like a woman scorned, and a woman scorned is capable of doing anything. Catherine, you have the microphone.
Okay, thank you so much for having me back. I'm going to talk in English this time.
Okay.
I have read Ashraf's stories. I really appreciate his stories. And there's something I want to talk about. Just as I said before, I've worked in domestic violence here in the UK. And some of the outcomes when we go to court, around four, they're usually 4 outcomes. One of them is suspended or inconclusive when we don't have enough evidence. The other one is premeditated. Like somebody has been talking about, if I find you with a husband, if I find you with a second wife, I'll kill you. So that history is there. There is planning. There is organized planning of killing a husband. That's there. But when I looked at Ashraf, most of Ashraf's cases, when he presented them, some of them, it was temporary insanity. When you lose control of yourself. Just as you said, I don't know what I would do if I find my husband or wife in an action. Yes. You may lose yourself in that moment. That's not you. So when the judge
is that forgiven by law, though, Catherine? Is that forgiven? Is that considered by law? Is that ever forgiven that was a sort of a temporary insanity?
It is considered temporary insanity. That's not you. That's not really what you would do. So your sentence will be less, or like given community service, or given something less than being given maybe 8 years. That according to your character, according to the people that know you, that's not something you'd have done. You completely lost it. So according to Ashraf's stories, I've noticed that some of those stories, there was some kind of temporary insanity.
Right.
And it's not a nice feeling.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Hasfa, you have the microphone. Hi, Hasfa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Shekeke, thanks for the program, and good to see Haji Ashraf after waiting for him in the Chronicles.
No, he was there. It's just the network that didn't serve us well.
I have a question for Sheikh Ashraf, Haji Ashraf. There's 2 scenarios, as you could actually, in relation to Sister Catherine. One, there was a story, I think it was in Tennessee. This woman was married to a priest, a pastor, with 3 children. And she ended up killing him. They were waiting for him a Bible study for like 3 days or 2 days in Atamamulaba, and they didn't see anybody at home. So one of the people at church goes to the place and then discovers he was laying down dead. And the woman caught the kids, now again, somewhere out of state, to the beach with the 3 kids. However, when she was brought to court, Nagamba, she was this southern, very humble Catholic girl, and then got married to this pastor, but he had this domineering, I think all of us are mature, sexual things, amwambas are wigs and whips and all that. Finally, she lost it. She shot him, Nagenda. But when she went to court, she was not convicted of murder. She was set free. So now my question comes into what for Uganda in the law system? When you hear some of these women's stories, sometimes they snap, but there's always a story behind these women. Kumanga, does the law even ever listen to these stories? Catherine Wagambi, sometimes it's temporary insanity. And that I'll just be quick. And that I was a woman who was a dentist, and the husband was having an affair. She went and got plastic surgery. He still went out and had more affairs, and then she ended up running him over. Well, she ended up getting manslaughter instead of murder for killing the man. Justice system, I want to affair. Do they give them that temporary insanity? Now that killing is justified. Now the stories behind the killing, does the justice system consider them?
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Hasfa. And actually, those are the questions sometimes I think that we need to find out, we need to ask, especially Bujamu courtroom. A lot of times we just end up with the conclusion. You have the prosecution that is coming in so strongly to put the person down. You have a defense that is probably not strong enough, considering the fact that you're dealing with a dead person, there's death or murder involved. And then instance no and all these other mitigating factors are lost along the way. Before I bring in Uma Connect, Haj Ashraf, would you like to respond to that, please?
Okay.
Yes,
First and foremost,
Uganda, has there been a situation where we're considering those other mitigating factors?
Ekyaddala amateeka gaffe gabifaako kubanga ekisooka tomulayo nti sitole ze zonna ze bagambye ez'okutta tewaliiwo mukyala gwe baali basibye mayisa nti oba agenda ku gallows ku nze be nakola ki because
So no life sentence, no karabba, no death
no karabba. Yeah, definitely no karabba. Nti na interviewing over 156 and 30 men. Na ye amateeka gatunula nnyo ebyo what happened before nti ne balyoka babasalira okusinza ku ekyo ekyaliwo. Era iziti Sister Catherine yabadde agamba waliwo yagambye awo nti Uganda kirabika tetufaayo akole Yolanda niyo omukyala naye munnange babifaako naye ekizibu ekiriwo nti abantu abasinga tebatera kufuna ba lawyers babakola ki babalungi babadefendinga. It's the only problem. Naye nga the Gunde judicial system ekintu ekyo kitunira nnyo nti ono yafudde ku kati nga wekijambiya yakitemako omugulu olaba nti yali preach meditated n'akwata ejjambiya neyetekodi neyebaka n'amutemako omukono naye she was given 8 years okusinziza ku kyakola ki kukyaliwo
kyamutwalira okukituukako. Yes.
Kati mbadde njagala kusembayo nakano
njagala okalekaako tuke tuba tusembyeyo kalina otugusa wali
awo nga ekyaddala amateeka weegali era gakitunulira naye the problem eri mu ba lawyers kubanga eyo oluyine bw'abaya wabwerere lawyer their lawyers are good naye noli ayinza okufuna lawyer nga takola ki ebiseera bisinga babawabapo ba lawyer from government. Kakati ate ngayo government yagala okuyininga omusango gwayo.
Yes. All right. Okay, katulire Uma Connect now to bring in the last one, and then we'll do the Chika Munana going in. I'm sure we still have a good conversation that we can have around our 8 minutes. Uma Connect, go ahead, please. Is that Zaid?
Hey, Kayira.
So,
Wadenge na Women's Day, Batuma Men's Day. Neze naze kuleta examples. Kesi wajulirako ethontono thao omuna Uganda omukazi yamusaba divorce n'agaana n'asalawo yamuyinamu omwana wa myaka ng'ena ye n'asalawo najja n'afumita omukazi ebiso nga n'omwana atunudde wati
omusajja nga yafumita omukazi oba omukazi nga yafumita omusajja?
Omusajja nga yafumita n'afumita ethontono thao bana Uganda kazi yali munyarwanda mukazi omusajja muna Uganda n'amufumita ebiso n'amutta ng'omwana atunudde bw'ati. So bw'okibuuza abantu bonna betwabuuzanga walikoze eki mu situation eyo kagamba ku muntu okusaba divorce kya bulijjo kakati lwaki oba omutta moreover maaso g'omwana wo kati omwana oyo oluzayinza okwagala nga taata we nga yakulaba bw'ati ng'otta maama we n'ebiso n'omumalawo. Kale cases tulabika tusikweyalinga Seka Kayira nti abakyala batta n'abaami bakola ebikolwa by'ebimu oba n'okusingawo.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Haj Ashraf, tugende kale akasemba.
Akasemba era njagala kamera nti tubadde tugamba nnyo abakyala nti bo balowooza ne bakola ki nti olugira olugwa ku kizibu n'areactinga n'akola ekiki naye kakati ono yali musajja ono mwami yali akola mu Spencon is a construction company Uganda eno. Kakati ebyokuvuga bitrakita ebyo bino bigraders mayo bitendekera Kenya eyo gye yava bw'akomawo kuno n'abeera ng'akoze mu Spencon kati abakola ddamu ne bamukola ki eno the second gune etali eno bayita Nalubaale ne bamukansa n'agenda eyo n'abeera ng'akola ki. Meanwhile n'afuna omukyala ne bamujjira mu kyalo nga banagamba nti katukuleetera omukyala mutegeke bulungi Bamu omukyala wa mukyale babeere nga babeera na muŋŋoona awo. Naye munnange bukeera enkya omwami akoledde omukyala edduuka bano abatunda bino tubiyita bicakalacakala bagenda e China bayita masowaani.
Yes.
Kati omukyala nafuna essente nagula n'emmotoka. Kati omwami we bambi mwami we nja kumuyita Ayubu n'atuuka ne bamubbako amafuta. Kubanga yali akolera abakola graders. Kati abaana ba symphony nga amafuta nga tamanyi okugenda okweza nga mutwalo mulamba gwa liters. Tagulaba. Ne bamutwala mu kkooti naye ne bamugoba ku mulimu. Kati n'atuula waka. Naye ng'omukyala akola sente yamwa nnyingi. Capital eri mu millions nga 2. It so happened ku wano EDM nga ituuka. Nga ye teyabulira mukyala naye n'ayita bakwano be 2. Wayita bakwano 2 ne maama we n'amuyita. Ne babeera ku EDM. Omukyala yagula ebintu bingi. Yagula n'essekkokko byonna ng'effumbiro liri busy. Kati abagenyi bwe batuuka time kemu ya lunch bavudde okusala bakomyewo. Omukazi n'aleeta n'abawa n'amazzi ne banaaba mu ngalo biki n'essowaani n'aleeta. Effumbiro nga yayitaddeko kufulu 2 n'alisiba n'akwata abaana be n'omukozi ne bagenda. Omukyala omwami agenda okulaba akawoowo akawulira naye ebintu tebijja n'agendayo. Yatandika kutema mulanga. Nkoze ki kino? Tewandinswaza kutuma mikwano gye the best friend nga beberi awo. So kyeyakola n'agenda na maama we n'amukwata. Maama we yalina ku ssente nga tugende mu hoteli bagenda ku Afrikaana. Bakwano be ne bamugamba sorry. Kati n'akubira mukulu we. Maama we n'akubira mukulu we n'agamba nti nno Ibu afunye ekizibu naye yeetaaga kuba wano. N'amugyawo. Yasula wa maama we teyadda waka. Kati the following day omukulu oyo Ibu n'akomawo n'akomawo ne mukulu we. Kuba mukulu we y'omu ku baalaba omukyala ne badda awaka. N'alinda mukulu we oli amala okudda omukyala teyakola ki? Alabika nawe yali alinga amulaba nga tayagala kujja. Era mukulu we olwafuvuga emmotoka n'agenda ne wayitawo akaseera n'akomawo. Bwe yakomawo n'ayingira mu nju ne babeera awo. N'atandika okumukyokoza kuba mukyala ebbiiti yali anyweddemu nako ne ku mwenge. N'atandika omugamba nti kakati nno walabe olulala toddangamu okubayita nga toyogedde. Si gwe wabadde ogiguze. Bw'atyo n'amuprovokinga. The man went away n'afulumako ebweru. Kati aba afuluma agenda kyava amuyita oze wa nnyoko. Ndowooza mwanyumiddwa nnyo bwe wasuze naye. Omusajja bwe yabuuka olw'ekigambo ekyo yakuba mukyala w'ekikonde mu kifuba. Era yagala wansi teyaddangu. Bamusiba emyaka 15. Naye nga kuluno muki n'omusajja naye asobola okwakitinga amangu ku ekyo ekibaddewo. Bandibadde bamusiba n'amayisa naye apiiru yakizza nga bamaze okuwuliriza ennyo ebyo baddewo ne bakkakkanya ku kibonerezo. Nsonyiwa okumalira mu nnaku naye nga bamusumuula kati emijjo gyawera emyaka ne bamuta naye yagaana okuddamu okuwasa. Amaka mbeererewo.
Ng'alonda kkubo oba ng'asiiba.
Awo nja kuwa essimu ye.
Exactly 1 minute to 10 o'clock in London, in the United Kingdom. 1 minute now to actually 1 o'clock in Uganda or East Africa. This is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we have been live on 75W Radio, live on Zoom, on Umma Connect, and streaming live on YouTube via Umma Connect as well. Remember, you can always join this program or just watch back if you have missed any episode at all. Hajashraf kabuza akaribadde kasembayo yakwataganye n'abantu bano nga bamaze okudda. Oyina bw'osobodde okuba nti osinkanye nabo kubanga baliwo abalaba mu prison. Oyina bw'osobola okuba nti osinkanye nabo. Tulina bwe twali tusuubira okuba naye ekiro kya leero naye atasobodde ku olw'ensonga mu bw'endagaano zaaka.
Incidentally, yabaddewo. Era n'abeerako kola ekizibu ekyazzeewo nga egundi gye tukubanga ye yayiira anti we acid.
Yes.
Yayiira bba kati topic ebadde naye nga abaddeko era awuliriza era yaŋŋambye bwankubituna naye bali kubatta babba bwabwe ate nze ndi kuki naye nga abaddeko. Kakati bangi bensisinkanye kati ng'omwami ow'e Masaka ow'Obugaali bwe baamuta kubanga yagwira omwana toyinza kukkiriza yaddamu era balina mukyalo
n'oyo omukyala mwennyini
kuba yaŋŋamba nti tewali yali amutegeera ate tewali yali
Ajasha ofreezinze ku ddakiika envannyuma ddala gye tuli mu kuwunzikirako. Ajasha woli, if not then we'll accept that that is fate kubanga suddenly ofreezinze. But I think that was a very good note to complete tonight's conversation. Thank you very, very much for being with us. I hope Ajashraf can come back. If he does, then we will be able to. Ali Buembo says the coming word was heavy network saved us. Well, thank you very much. Allah wati wamugerede network freezing at the very moment where it actually mattered so much. Well, thank you very much for joining the conversation.
Shekeke, you're serving a sentence. What you take such a gatao?
Well, what you take emirundi ekisinga baba bayita buyisi tebalwangalirawo.
Agambi yali ayonke ebbere erimu nga bebi ayonke ebbere.
Anti naye oluvannyuma kubanga wajjira bayita bannamusiba olwo yamala kubigwamu bugwere.
Anti kati bamusiba n'agattawo.
Okuwangalirawo kiyinza okuzibuwala. Abacutex bamala weeks 3 nga tebannadda wanga cutex zaatwala ennaku ezo. Mpozi nga baakumuddinganya nga waddako. Ajashrafu tasobodde kudda. But that was a very, very high note. It was just a cliffhanger. Kubanga tusigadde ffenna nga tubadde mu mbeera erowooza what could have happened next. Thank you very much for making tonight's program. Inshallah, we'll be back next week with another interesting program. Do not miss any of these conversations. This is one area where we do not have any topic that is out of bounds. It's just the treatment that we give to such topics. We do that decently. Ajashraf, thank you very, very much. And njakwebaliza kubanga network erabika ennyuse ku ddakiika abangi gye balowooza nti obadde oleeta ekigambo ekizitoyi network nesalawo ekizikize. I can only say thank you very much. Have a very good night and see you next week, Tuesday, inshallah. Tomorrow, Ummah Connect continues, and as well as 75W Radio with Bridging the Gap. On Ummah Connect, it will be Sheikh Kata, and then as usual, Riyadu Swalihin nga tugitambudde n'embeera zaayo zonna, alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. We will be there, and according to Ummah Connect, wife was with the Q-Tex lad while husband was in prison. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and have a very good night.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.